On the surface, it may sound like a medical term for experts, but its impact reaches right into families, communities, and our future. To help us break this down, we have with us a pharmacist, Gregson Idibofun, and a public health advocate who will help us understand what AMR really is and what every family should know to stay safe. Good morning, how are you doing?
Good morning, it's nice to be here again.
Yes, it's good to have you on the show yet again. Now, let's start quickly. What is antimicrobial resistance? What does it mean in simple terms?
Very simple term. From the name, the definition is the antimicrobial resistance. You know, when microorganisms, pathogens,
Okay.
bacteria, fungi, and other pathogens, when they develop the ability to now resist the antimicrobial agents that should ideally kill or curtail them, we'll call that antimicrobial resistance. And this doesn't just start one day. It goes through, series of modifications and what have you, and eventually medication you use to kill a pathogen, disease pathogen, no longer works for that disease.
Okay.
So that is what we mean by resistance. In very simple terms.
Okay, so we'll get into why that happens, but like I stated during the introduction, the World Awareness Week for Antimicrobial Resistance started on Tuesday and it ends today. So why has AMR become a major topic globally and even in Nigeria?
Well, it has become a very sensitive topic globally because of the impact it has on both our health system, food system, our environment and economies. For one, in 2019, we had about 1.27 million deaths directly linked to antimicrobial resistance. And in that same year, roughly 4.95 million deaths were associated with antimicrobial resistance. You could know that that is quite significant. In 2021, even though we had some, because after the 2019 numbers, there were motivations for people to do well, to curtail it. And of course, in 2021, we experienced a reduction. It dropped from 1.27 million to 1.14 million. But then the sad thing is that why it is quite significant, why it is a global concern, global health concern, is it has been estimated that between 2025 and 2050, we're going to have roughly 39 million deaths linked to antimicrobial resistance. In 2050 alone, it's estimated to be about 1.9 million deaths linked to antimicrobial resistance. Now, that is the estimations. It doesn't mean that it must be like that.
As a matter of fact, it can be
it can
be more than that.
Exactly. So, but why the projections have been made is to now tell people, all the stakeholders, that there is a big challenge on our hands. We need to now act. You can see the theme for this year: act now, protect the present, secure our future. It's trying to today. What we have today, the little progress, even though it is small compared to what we actually intend to get, we should protect it. Let's try to protect that. Then, of course, secure the future for the unborn generations. Now, antimicrobial resistance has far-reaching implications. It may not be us that will experience all those far-reaching implications. Maybe the generation next.
Okay. So now you've established what it's all about, AMR, what it means, and the impact it has had and will likely have in the near future. Now, what are the everyday habits that encourage antimicrobial resistance that could lead to AMR?
Well, first and foremost, the most significant is the misuse of antibacterial agents. Okay. I don't want to say antibiotic because we have antifungal and the rest of them. Okay. So the misuse of antimicrobial agents, the misuse of these agents, these medications, is the primary cause of antimicrobial resistance. Now, we have situations where people self-medicate. We always talk about self-medication, whether it is for painkillers or what have you, but always make sure. But you see, for painkillers, you self-medicate on painkillers. I don't advise that. You may get if it's NSAID, ulcer and the rest of them, those that have asthma, complicated and the rest of them. But you see, for antimicrobial resistance, if you self-medicate, you should be ready for it, for the resistance. I've had the situations where we've had to treat common typhoid, let me not say it common, But in quotes, common typhoid, that's enteric fever. Usually there is a medication that is very popular, that's popularly used to manage that. But that didn't work. We stepped up to the next one. It didn't work. You know what we had to use for such person? Expensive medication. Let me not mention the side people now, not go and abuse them. But we had to step up. Especially where it's something that you could have used like 5,000 naira or so to handle, because you have been self-medicated, you've abused antibiotics, you are now spending close to 100,000 naira or thereabout or so. It has economic impact on you. So the misuse of antibiotics is one. Then of course there are people that use medications for livestock. It's also something. It can also lead to antimicrobial resistance. People that have poultries,
yes,
piggeries, and
so the medication they use for livestock can affect a human being.
Of course, definitely, yes.
Even when it is cooked.
I said they can
pass through heat.
Of course, we'll come to that. We understand that heat actually can also kill some of the. But we're not talking about pathogens this time around. But it can kill pathogens, I think. But what we are just saying now is that for poultry farmers, all those livestock breeders or whatever that use antibacterials, antibiotics especially, to treat infections in their poultry beds, they also need to get their awareness. They also need to be cautioned on the proper use of such medication. Not every time your poultry droppings are watery or so, you begin to stock them, to bulk them up on antibiotics and the rest of them. And some of them, for after 6 weeks or so, they sell them off, right, to consumers who consume all this and the rest of them. And the thing is, there's a transfer of resistance from those poultry beds or from those animals, those livestock that you consume to the humans. So that's why when we talk of antimicrobial resistance, we are not just focusing on just the human health. We are also talking about animals and of course plants, as the case may be.
So you're saying use of, because I remember the last time we talked about self-medication, we talked about herbal mixtures and all of that. So they also play a role, unregulated concoctions. Are they linked anyway to AMR?
Yes, they are. Even though it is not direct, but they are. The truth is, you use herbal concoctions or herbal remedies, unregulated ones. They can modify how you feel. You feel you are better. If I have a typhoid or enteric fever, and I take certain concoctions, and because some of them are more like they would make your system very, very agile. You feel like everything is okay. You feel very active, and in that instance you think that you are well, everything is okay, but the infection is still there. Of course, you have some truth. If you look around, brothers, some of our people from the north, there are some of these roots and the rest of them herbs that they sell. They sell it, and your body is, they call it, you are kajad. You are very strong and active. Then once you are like that, you forget about the infections, but it's still there. It doesn't mean that it has gone out. But what that herbs or all those things you've consumed have done to your system is just to make you super active. But that doesn't mean that the infection has been taken care of. So if you do that, the infection is festering there. You understand? So, and again, those things, they will also have a way of touching those infections to those disease pathogens. But because they are not the appropriate things to use against those pathogens. Of course, you touch the pathogen, you scratch the surface, pathogen, you're like, oh wow, something has come to threaten us, so we need to now change. That will now bring us to the how pathogens develop resistance. We'll come to that along the line.
Okay, so now let's talk about how AMR affects the average family. What risk does it pose to children, pregnant women, the elderly?
Of course, the antimicrobial resistance, first and foremost, I casually mentioned the other time that medications that ideally should work, that are affordable, they no longer work for such pathogens. It means that you now have to step up to higher grade medications, and of course they will likely cost you more, and of course take longer duration of therapy. Those are some of the implications. Of course, if you get to take a more expensive medication, of course you know what it means, economic impact. And some of these medications, because if something you take for 7 days and the pathogen is cleared off, because of resistance, you have to take for 21 days, 14 days, as the case may be. Something probably that you may take orally, you have to now go through the inconvenience of taking it intravenously. You understand what I'm saying now?
Yes.
So, and for families, the impact this one has on families is, one, it will disrupt your work-life balance. Yeah. You understand? Because if for something I should handle, maybe a child is sick, usually you should give this and the child is well. Because of all this resistance and the rest of them, you need to now take the child to the hospital. You understand? Of course, you spend some days in the hospital. What has happened to that family is that the mother either have to go and stay with the child. And the father, even if he has to go to work, he is conscious that he has somebody in the hospital. He needs to know call frequently, and that will actually affect his work output. That is one thing. Then of course the cost again is there, the inconvenience is there. So for families, for the society, it has far-reaching implications. The economy is one of them. I always mention that. The inconvenience is there. Then the duration of therapy, which will also impact on your work-life balance. That's your productivity.
Okay, now let's come to your field. What roles do people like you, pharmacists, physicians, and other health practitioners have to play in mitigating this crisis?
Well, the first and most important role we play is to tell ourselves the truth that we play a significant role in either increasing antimicrobial resistance or mitigating it. I'm talking as
a pharmacist
now, yes, that our actions would either increase it or mitigate it. What I mean by this is, as a pharmacist, you should, of course, pharmacists are custodian or drug custodians, so you should know better. You should know how to counsel your patients, other individuals, that certain medication should not be used for certain ailments. Now, if the physician prescribes a medication that is not so appropriate for that pathogen, it can be forgiven. But you as a pharmacist, that the medication, the prescription comes to your desk, and you dispense as prescribed without bringing in your knowledge to bear, you will not be forgiven. I don't know if you
okay, so as a pharmacist now, when you see a prescription, you know the ailment that prescription is meant to address.
So
it's stated there.
If you don't know, then you should go back to school. I will say that, but if you, as a pharmacist, you don't know what the medication is meant for, you should go back to school. That is just the simple truth. When they say pharmacists are custodians of medications, it is not just it is not a mere appellation. No, that is it. That is what they are trained to do. But then the physicians also play a very significant role. Of course, they will clerk the patient, they will diagnose the ailments, and they will recommend appropriately. That is why the medical field is ideally should work as a unit. You understand? Work as a unit, work collaboratively. The doctors, they prescribe, the pharmacists, they look at, oh, doc, this medication prescribed is good, but we cannot get the optimal result from this one. There is no quarrel there. They must work as a team. Then those administering, the nurses or whoever is administering, also knows that, okay, this is how to administer the medication. You can't go and administer a medication meant for intramuscular administration as IV. You want to kill the person. So all these are things that the health team, that's why I said that we as health professionals, we should be conscious that our actions will either increase antimicrobial resistance or mitigate it. That is one thing. Therefore, us as pharmacists, over time, we see people coming to buy medications. They will tell you, I want one capsule of, let me call it Ampiclos. And they say, what do you need for it? Say, I have boil. You know, sometimes you will preach and say, no, you can't use one capsule to treat boil. You need to take a full course of antibiotic medication, full course of antibiotic medication. They will argue with you that just give me one capsule of Ampiclos. If I take one, it helps me. And you know, the thing is, if you are not trained, if you don't know your owners, you want to give. You understand what I'm saying? You want to give. And I don't blame this way because the economic situation is...
I blame them. If it's not the right thing to do, you should not.
I'm not talking of the pharmacists now. I'm talking of those coming to buy one capsule.
The pharmacy should not sell them.
It shouldn't sell. But if you don't sell as a pharmacist, of course, which ideally we don't do, they will still buy the medication from other places. Unregulated drug sellers, they will buy from them. They will get it. Somehow they'll get it. So that's why we said, despite the increase in drug-resistant infections, that it's very sad to note that the awareness level is still very low. Okay. And that is probably because you saw the data they released a few months ago, so that the number of doctors, the ratio of doctors to patients in Delta states is that over 4,000 to 1 doctor. Then you go to states like in the Northeast, you are seeing 20-something thousand patients per one doctor. You want to kill them. Okay.
So now you also talked about livestock. So what's your advice to farmers and environmentalists that are in this sector? What should they do?
Yeah, good and fine. You know, recently, people have been doing natural feeds and what's called medication for livestock, and it's been working fine for them. I also have a small poultry I run, and
so you're saying natural?
I do natural leaves and all those things. I give them, of course, I'll give them this normal feed. You can't do without that one, but at least you minimize them. Therefore, treatment, I don't think I have used any of these synthetic products. Tag them tetracycline or whatever for my poultry, but I don't do that. I only do the natural, use leaves and the rest of them for for treatment. Now, we as farmers, or okay, I've called myself a farmer. So as farmers, we can do better by exploiting those natural remedies.
Okay.
For our animals.
So it means that the vet personnel has to have knowledge of natural.
Of course, they do. If I will come to that too. If you must use all those medications
now because of
if you must use those medications, of course, that's why we say if you want to treat your animals, don't just do it from word of mouth from other people. Go to a veterinary doctor. You understand what I'm saying now? They know the right medications to use for your bird per time. But the situation, what we have now is that once your bird stools red, they will pack all the antibiotics they have at their disposal, they put them inside water and give to the birds. That is wrong. But if you meet a vet, I don't think a vet will tell you use this, use this, use this, use it. They will give you the one you should use. That's the appropriate one. That's why I say for antimicrobial resistance, to counter it, to mitigate it, we must know how to use antimicrobial agents the right way and appropriately.
Okay. So now let's come back to the family individuals. What signs should families watch out for that may suggest that a drug is not working due to resistance? How can I know? How can I tell?
Okay, it will be difficult to tell if you are not in the medical field, but you should have some basic knowledge of what antimicrobial resistance is. Now, if you visit your doctor, your physician, or the pharmacist, you get a medication that is properly indicated for that condition you've complained of or that have been diagnosed, and you are given a proper medication to use for a standard duration of therapy, and let's say 7 days or so, and you finish the medication, you go through the entire course of the therapy, and you still do not feel better, of course you suspect that there's resistance. That is one. But if after you suspected that there's resistance, it's not for you to establish, you should go back to the physician or to the pharmacist.
Might have been misdiagnosed.
Very possible, but it's hardly, but it's possible. Then you go back to them and say, I've used this medication. They will ask you certain questions. How did you use? Let not be that they told you to use medication one morning, one night, and then you decide to use it. Take one by 9 a.m. Then you take the other one by 12 midday. Because sometimes they make that mistake. Tell you take 2 times daily. We don't do that. The pharmacist will tell you take 12 hourly or take every 8 hours. But if you say take 3 times daily, the person can take by 8 a.m., take by 10 a.m., and take the last one by 11 p.m. The person has abused that medication. So you have to go back, and the person will ask you certain questions. Did you take as recommended? He said yes. Did you use the right dose? Yes. Then they will not need to. They will take it from their side. Okay.
So lastly, what will be your advice, especially on the theme of the World Awareness Antimicrobial Resistance Week? Act now. How can people start acting now? How can we protect the present and secure our future?
Okay, very fine. Act now, protect our present, the present, and secure the future. It's a call for local and global action for every stakeholder, the pharmacists, the doctors, other health professionals, even you as an individual, the farmer, the environmentalist, and anybody that is involved remotely or actively in the use of antimicrobial agents, to now step up the awareness campaigns. That is one. To step up the education of those that are concerned. That is two. And of course, within themselves, like I said the other time, that we can actually, our action can increase or mitigate it. To also know that we now have to play a very active role in ensuring that people get the right antimicrobial agents for the right purpose, for the right duration, and at the right dose.
All right, thank you very much, Pharmacist Gertson Idibofun, for sharing your knowledge with us as it concerns antimicrobial resistance. We do appreciate your time as always. We'll go for a short break, and when we return, we'll be taking you through our last interview segment, a segment you do not want to miss out because it concerns the security of not just Nigeria, of Delta State. Please stay tuned. Welcome back. In recent times, Nigeria and indeed Delta State has witnessed various security challenges ranging from theft, kidnapping, robbery, and other forms of criminal activity. In moments like this, safety awareness and personal responsibility become essential for every citizen. To help us understand how to stay safe and what practical steps we can take, we have with us the Police Public Relations Officer of the Delta State Command, SP Bright Idafe, who will be sharing expert insights on the topic, staying safe in times of rising insecurity, practical strategies for every citizen. Good morning, SP Idafe. It's good to have you on the show. Thank you for always obliging us with your presence whenever you are called upon. Alright, so let's jump right into it. From the perspective of Delta State Police Command, how would you describe the current situation in the state, security situation?
Okay, I'm glad you said in the state, because oftentimes people try to generalize the security situation in the country, and I keep saying I would like to limit my scope to Delta State. If you judge by what is happening in some parts of the country, with the exception of the western part of this country, that's southwest, Delta State, it's one of the safest states around. See, most of these crises in other parts of the country does not happen in Delta State. What happens in Delta State is similar to what happens in almost every other part of this world. Because there are no places, kidnapping did not start from Delta State, it didn't even start from Nigeria. Armed robbery, stealing, and other petty crimes. You cannot completely eradicate crime from any part of the world. In fact, like I always say whenever I come here, once you have more than one person in the room, there is tendency for crime to be committed. With that being said, I can tell you that Delta State is very safe. I can score Delta a strong 70 over 100. Yes.
That's an A.
Yes, I can score Delta a strong. You have guarantee to a reasonable extent that if you are traveling from here to Warri, you get to your destination. You have a strong guarantee that if you are traveling from here to Benin, you get to your destination. I'm not saying that there are no pockets of crime. There are. But if we must tell ourselves the truth, Delta State is safe. For the fact that people can move around without security detail, without escort, without fear of being kidnapped, you understand why I say Delta State is safe. So if you ask me to score, I'll score Delta a strong 70 over 100.
Okay, so still considering the state and the season we're in, when it comes to Ember months, people feel like there is rise, and also reports in the past have proven that there is rise of insecurity and all of that. What are the most common security threats residents should be aware of at this time?
It's not, I don't want to say most common. It is still the same trend, the same crime that happens once in a while. The only issue is that people who are determined to want to show off this Yuletide period may want to either maybe they must have rested for a while in committing crime, they may want to continue, or they may want to step up. Yes, but there is no particular, there is not a new crime that they commit during December period. But one thing that I have observed is that this year, today it should be 24. 6 days, 7 days from now will be in December. I can tell you that since I became PRO, this happens to be one of the most quiet Ember months that we've had.
When you say quiet, in terms of peace and calm?
Yes, because prior to this time, in previous years, you will hear increased kidnapping, even in the metro. They are kidnapping in Bosako, they are kidnapping at Ezene, they are kidnapping at a former deputy. But this year, it has been very calm. And I want to give credit to the Delta State government, the Commissioner of Police, Delta State, because proactive measures were taken on time. In the past years, it seems like we wait. When we start getting this complaint, then we bring police teams together and deploy them at strategic locations. But this time we were proactive enough that before now, you discover that pin down points have increased. We have policemen at Intabwa, policemen at Coca, policemen at FMC Roundabout, policemen at Midwifery, Beria Babangida Junction by the Express, Ed Bridge, Bonsac. So this has really helped. Even Falcon Club at DLA. This has really helped to bring down crime and also send out a strong warning to criminals that we are ready and we are waiting for them should they bring out their ugly heads.
Okay, sometime last week, you put out on your X handle that the CP had a meeting with patrol and guard officers and technical teams. Can you shed more light on this, what these personnel were briefed on? And also, you talked about kidnapping has reduced. I was listening to one of the popular activists and human rights activists around this area. He was talking about the increase in kidnapping rate from Onitsha to Asaba and how people should not get into buses, roadside buses.
I don't take that guy seriously.
Okay.
I'm glad you didn't mention his name, so I will not mention his name.
Okay.
I don't take him seriously.
Why?
Because
but he has done notable stuff for persons, and they've come to acknowledge him.
We are there. Where he is, we are also there.
Okay.
I don't want to talk down on him, but it's common sense. There are people that does things for clout chasing. There are people that does things just to gather impression. Like I said, I don't want to go there. What I know is that for a crime that is not reported is assumed not to have occurred. I'm saying this for our audience to listen. If you really want to fight crime, somebody who claimed he was kidnapped, you don't take him to your house, you take him to the nearest police station to report and give the police all the necessary details.
But don't you think that the police also has a structure of the bottlenecks that people have complained about? That's why
I also want you to know that nobody goes to a battlefield with a camera. That's one of the red flag we need to see. Nobody goes to a battlefield doing selfie.
But in other countries, we have things like body cam.
Body cam is different. Body cam is on your body. You don't have control over it. You don't take position and start recording. Nobody goes to a battlefield with a camera. Like I said, I don't want to talk down on anybody. That being said, I don't attribute what it does. I don't give it any importance. I believe that most of them are staged. It has happened in the past, and nobody can say it cannot happen, but time will tell.
Okay, so on the strategic meeting.
However, nobody should say, oh, we don't trust the police. The truth is that what we are doing is for all to see, is there for all to see. There's hardly any week that I don't showcase our achievement 2 or 3 times in a week. And none of this operation we do while taking selfie or going to that scene with camera just to do show off. For the fact that you are going to a crime scene with camera shows that something is not right. Then for that meeting we had, it was basically to let the men know that December is here. Naturally, from experience of the time past, crime tends to increase, even though we've not observed that yet this year. But apart from that, the CP also reiterated the fact that policing with human face is key, not abusing their powers, not abusing their office, civility to members of the public. Incivility to members of the public that the CP want will not be tolerated. You don't go about searching people's houses. You don't go about searching people's phones. You let them know that police is here to help them, not to stress them. Police is their friend and helper. They should make it look obvious that yes, that is what we are here to do, not to stress them. So that is basically the reason for that meeting with patrol commanders and tactical commanders about 4 days ago.
Okay, so security, as we know, is a collective responsibility. Now, what practical daily habits can citizens adopt, Deltans adopt, can residents in Asaba and Delta State adopt to minimize their vulnerability to criminals?
Number 1, when we say this, people like to argue. Reduce going out at night. It's natural. You are your first, generally, I'm not even talking about Delta State.
No, I know, but I'm just saying in Asaba.
You are your first policeman. You are your first security. And that is why you have a gate at DBS, at your studio here. You have two security men there. You have not waited for the policemen to come and police you here or to come and secure you here. You do the little you can to ensure that you are secured. That being said, you must understand that when you are in your house, you lock your door. When you are driving, you look both your side mirrors and the rear mirrors. You understand that you don't overspeed. You understand that you check if somebody is trailing you. You understand that you must lock your door when you are in your house. You understand that if somebody calls you and you don't know or recognize that person, you don't have to answer. You understand that yes, even though we are doing our best to keep Delta State safe, there is still tendency that criminals will want to rear their ugly heads. You understand that this is Ember Month where people come and throw knockouts just to make you think that it's just business as usual, not knowing that they have come to attack. So Deltans are urged to be security cautious. They should arm themselves with the police command control room emergency number. They should know their divisional police officer. They should know the location of their police station. Last night somebody was calling me around 2 a.m. I now told him, you have a DPO, you should have the control room number. It is not my duty to wake up around 2 a.m. and attend to your needs. I am a policeman, I work for 8 to 10 hours and go to sleep. There are people that work 12 hours. Those that are on night duty resume by 6 p.m. to close 6 a.m. So those ones you can call them at night, they will be there to answer you. There are people posted at the divisions that will be there to answer you. So you must arm yourself with this. I want to call it broom. This phone number should be your broom. Criminals should be cockroaches. You use the broom you have to send away cockroaches.
Now, there was a situation, I think early last week, at the Inyanga market axis of Asaba here, the Coca axis area. And I'm yet to see an official report from the police. I don't know, because when you started, you talked about a crime that was not reported, never happened. That's in your words. I don't know if that was reported. I don't know what the police has done about that. And we saw the aftermath and all of that. So I'm putting that side by side with this next question. How can communities organize themselves better through neighborhood watches, vigilante groups or vigilant groups, community policing, without taking the law into their own hands?
Okay, first of all, I think our community leaders are not doing enough.
Okay.
Community leaders, they are expected to sensitize their people. You don't carry out jungle justice. I believe what happened was an aftermath of jungle justice. Jungle justice is not something we should encourage at all, because who knows, the Alu 4 in Rivers State then is still fresh in some of our minds. And you discover that after those 4 boys were burned to death, they discovered that they only came to draw debt. So jungle justice is not the best. However, aftermath of that jungle justice, there was crisis between the North, people from the northern extractions and the Igbo extractions, and some people were injured. I learned a child died. We have about 7 suspects in custody.
Okay. And
they were arraigned in court soon. It's not everything that we do. I don't believe in jumping out to issue statements.
But it's part of your job.
No, that's not what I believe. I know it's part of my job.
For a situation like that was very public.
No, that's what I'm saying now. I understand once something is on the public space, there is press statement, there is press release. And the press have already called me and I have responded. It's only when I'm not responding, I will not tell them, wait, I want to issue a press release. But I have given you a press statement. I have responded. Yes, this is what has happened. And we've arrested so number of suspects, and this is what we are doing. It's not every time. If you say you want to issue statement for every crime that happens, you'll be issuing statements. In fact, your statement becomes boring to readers because this guy don't issue statement again. So we try to manage it. That issue was immediately managed. It's just that on social media it was over exaggerated, but it was immediately managed. People were arrested. We positioned our policemen around that area, and peace was restored.
In this digital age, online scams and cybercrime, what advice do you have for citizens regarding cyber safety and protecting their personal information?
Citizens should be mindful that yes, there are vampires out there looking for people to fall into their hands. For instance, the one that is on the rise now is WhatsApp being hacked. is on the increase. I think after today I will post that video where I advise people on how to factor authenticate their WhatsApp. That's what is on the rise now. And how do they get to you? They send you link. You don't have to click those links. Oh, click this link, you get 200 gigabytes. Who does that? The first question will be, who can just wake up and say, okay, I want to start sharing 200 gigs for everybody? So when you see offers that are too good to be true, don't click. I don't click link, no matter how important that link is, unless I'm the one looking for it. I don't click links. Avoid clicking links. I think I may have to do that video again because I did not really state how they fall prey to these things. You don't click links. That's one. Then when people contact you and say, oh, send me money, I am stranded. The person who has contacted you is pretending to be someone you know. Then that person you know should send you the account number of the person you know, not the account number of a third party. If we are aware of this fact, a lot of persons have chatted more than 4 or 5 times. Because I am aware, I lay them on, I get the account number and send it to our intelligence unit to mask the face behind the account number. So let us be aware of this. Let us know that there are cyber criminals out there looking for Nigerians to exploit. We have one. There is this one we have in custody now. He was in possession of over. It should be amounting to about 300,000 to 400,000 pounds, euros, and dollars brought together. And he uses this to lure people. Click this link, you see what you don't expect. By the time you click the link, you see very large amount of money, and they will tell you you can get this money if you do this, if you do this, and if you do this. And because of how greedy some of us can be, we easily fall prey to these predators. So let us be careful and mindful of what we do, particularly when we are online.
Now, I know you mentioned it earlier, but now that we are talking about criminality and all of that, what is the proper way, and I know it's something that you've done over and over again, what is the proper way to report suspicious activities, crimes or emergencies to the police? Is it dependent on location, or since I have your number, I can just pick my phone and call you and you direct me on what to do, or I go on X and tag you? What is the proper way?
Tagging me on X is okay, but what is most important is that if it is an intelligence you are giving, then you can give that either through my DM, or you call the control room number, or you quietly walk into the DPO's office and talk to him. But if it has to do with you in particular, maybe a crime against your person, then you must be physically present to lodge your complaint. But what we face these days is that most people just want to lodge complaint on via phone call. We are in Nigeria, and Rome, like they always say, was not built in a day. That level that the Americans have gotten to, we'll get there, but we are not there yet. We are not where you just say, oh, 911, PO in less than 2 minutes, emergency in a unit in your house. We are not there yet, but we'll get there. However, we should arm ourselves, like I said earlier, with the phone number of our DPOs, the phone number of our station officers, the phone number of the police PRO, the phone number of the command control emergency.
So how can we get them? If I go on, is it on the social media platforms of the
if
Delta
you go
State
on my
Police?
X, if you go on my X handle at Bright Golden Boy, the first tweet you will see is a tweet carrying these numbers, particularly the control room number and some of the numbers that you can use to get through me. So that's my advice. While you could also walk up to the nearest divisional police officer closest to you, make friends with him, collect his phone number, and have it handy. When you are calling and you are not getting response, SMS is also an option. You can send a text, and I believe if you show the seriousness of your complaint via text message, the person will definitely call you.
Yes. Before we get to the closing parts, I want to ask this very important question. How can I verify that an officer speaking to me is actually a legal officer? Because we've seen situations in the past where people feign to be policemen and they are not.
It depends on the number you are calling.
Not just call, I'm talking physically too.
Where are you going to meet them that you are doubting their ID? It depends on where you are meeting them. You can't meet a policeman at the police station and you are suspecting that he's fake.
On the road.
We don't, you see, let me tell you something. Agreed that there are policemen that don't dress properly. And that is what the IGP has addressed. All policemen must dress properly. If you are RROS, there must be RROS written on your jacket. If you are crack, there must be crack. But let me tell you what I have noticed. People who say they don't look like policemen, at the point where they are making their statement, you know that they actually know that those people are policemen. Because eventually you will hear later, they now took me to a police station. You know they have taken you to a police station, but while you were complaining to me, you were still saying they were not policemen. So it means that you know they are policemen. The truth is that we don't have that. That's not a common complaint in Delta. It's not the common. Maybe in other parts of the country, those complaints come once in a while. But here in Delta, we don't have that common complaint because we have over 53 divisions across Delta State. We have 8 area command. So we're able to spread our tentacles around the length and breadth of this state. So when there are those fake policemen that want to come out, it will not take long for us to arrest them. And I believe that's why we don't have them here.
Okay, so how can Deltans and residents of Delta State support the police in promoting a safer Delta State?
It's very simple, by way of giving us information. 80% of our achievements are down to the cooperation from members of the public. Timely, useful, and credible information. Please don't stop giving us information. Information is key. Information is a broom that we need to drive out crime from our society, even though we know we cannot completely eradicate crime. Always trust the police. Give us information when you have it. He who lives in glass, as they say, does not throw stone. You don't go to the market and throw stone because you don't know who that stone will hit.
Okay, finally, your word of advice to the viewer regarding staying calm, alert, and safe during periods of heightened insecurity. Because you might say, relatively speaking, Delta State is safe, but when you observe what is going on in the country, people get agitated. So what do you have to say?
Getting agitated is part of life, but it does not solve the problem. If when you are agitated, if you don't even, in fact, that your agitation can even maim that person before the person dies. For instance, it can make someone to have unnecessary high blood pressure. So I would rather use that energy to look for immediate solution. That is the way me I'm wired. If I'm having any challenges, the time I used to sit down and start regretting and start lamenting, I move out and look for solution to that problem. So if you feel there is a challenge, tackle it head on rather than sitting back and be lamenting and start giving yourself BP. Who knows? That problem you are even worried about that you want to use to harm yourself before the harm eventually come may not even come at all. So please just relax, think of possible solutions and face it head on.
All right, thank you very much, SP Bright Idafe, Police Public Relations Officer, Delta State Command, for these practical insights. Remember, staying safe is not just the responsibility of the police, it is our collective responsibility. So keep cooperating with security agencies for us to have a safer Delta and at large a better Nigeria. Thank you so much for being a part of Monday's edition of The Morning right here on Delta Television. On behalf of the production crew, I am Ogaga Ikama, thanking you so much for your time.